right, this is section 1.3, Z-score. Tonight's homework is page 250, and it's number 13 and 14. It's very, very short, but hopefully you'll get enough practice in class today that it should suffice. Also, you have many questions on your review assignment that you could practice if you feel the need to, okay? All right, so let's go over what a Z-score is. A Z-score is defined as the number that describes a value's distance from the mean. A Z-score is kind of like an absolute value. How far is it from 0? But this one is how far is it from the mean. So on our bell curve here, let's say this is the mean right here in the middle. And you have 1, 2, 3 standard deviations, 1, 2, and -3 standard deviations. Let's say Riad's standing right here. Riad's Z-score, because it's to the left of the mean, my Z-score would be -3, if that's where I was standing. Let's say Alec is right here. If I wanted to know what Alec's Z-score was, well, you just look past the mean, 1, 2. So Alec's Z-score would be 2. All right, let's say Manu is right here. I think you guys are now going to be able to tell me what Manu's Z-score is. Peter, what's Manu's Z-score? -1. How'd you get negative? Yes, it's 1 left from the mean, okay? You guys, no offense, I picked these names because it's short 4 letters, okay? So it's not like I don't love you. It's, you know, Angelica, like I won't be able to fit it. So. All right, so that's why we picked these names, no offense. All right, so if I wanted to know what the Z-score was, I always look at the mean, start at the mean, go to the right and to the left. But what if Mina was right here? What's his Z-score? Can you tell me what it is? Exactly what it is? No, right? But you know it's between what and what? You know it's between 0 and 1, but you don't know what it is exactly. Okay, and that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to use a formula to find the Z-score of any value on our chart. Here we go. This is the formula. Please use your colors to make it stand out. If I want to find the Z-score of any value, I put the value minus the mean. Are you done, babe? Okay, I'm trusting you that you fixed all 6 of those people, right? Over the standard deviation. Make that stand out for me, please. Let me write that in English, just so that you can see what we're doing here. the z-score is the value, so that's where you would put Mina's value if you wanted to know his z-score, minus the mean over the standard deviation. So if my z-score is -3, that's so much easier to say than I am 3 standard deviations below the mean. It means the same thing. So we assign scores instead of describing how far they are from the mean. We give them a score. Okay? So let's say we want to find out some information on people's z-scores. Let's give a hypothetical here. Example 1. Let's say tomorrow you walk in the door. Can you guys do the food later? So let's say you walk in the door and I'm going to give you $50 average per person. $50. Okay? So Miss Riad's going to give everybody that walks in an average of $50. Coach said to leave at 12:40? Coach said to leave at 12:40?
No, we have to leave early to figure out.
But Coach knows this?
Yeah, Coach knows because we don't have
$50, and I might plus or minus 5 it. Okay? So with a standard deviation of plus or minus 5. So a standard deviation of 5. So that's my mean. This is my standard deviation. Draw me the bell curve, please. I'm averaging giving you $50 per person. Plus or minus 5, that means the first standard deviation is 55, 60, and 65. Downwards would be 45, 40, and 35. 50, sorry, 50. If I give Renee $55, what's her z-score? 1. Tarlene, if I give you $40, what's your z-score? -2. So each one of us is not going to get exactly $50. It's just somewhere in this bell curve. Everybody with me? Yes or no? All right. Let's say I give Maya $37, and I want to find her z-score. Well, I'm going to use the formula given to me, which the z-score is her value minus the mean over the standard deviation. This is her value. This is what goes right here, because we want to find her z-score. So the z-score is going to be 37 minus the mean, which is 50, over 5. Now, is Maya's amount above or below the mean? Below the mean. So is her z-score going to be positive or negative? So make sure that your answer makes sense. Take out your calculators for me and tell me, what is 37 minus 50 divided by 5? Don't yell it out. Priscilla, you got your calculator? What did you get, babe? Good job. Negative 2.6. Let's see if this makes sense. What's this z-score right here? Everybody, what's the z-score right here? Negative 1. What's this z-score right here? Negative 2. What is this z-score right here? Isn't Maya in between here somewhere? So does it make sense that her score is a negative 2.6? Yes. So when you're doing tonight's homework and you're working on the review assignment, make sure your scores make sense. Like if I would have done the math and gotten 2.6, I'm wrong. And if I would have gotten, I heard somebody say 3 point something, you know that's wrong. Okay? All right, letter B. Let's say I gave Natalie $20. She got super gypped. Is her z-score going to be really high or really low? Why really low? What's the mean? 50. Is her z-score going to be positive or negative? Why? Because it's below the mean. So if you want to find her z-score, you plug in 20 minus 50 over 5. Thank you. Amina, what's her z-score? Excuse me? Negative 6. Yes, babe. Are you stretching or a question? Okay. All right. What if I gave Jeremy $81? Can you predict for me what his score is going to be about? Okay, can you tell me if it's positive or negative? Is it more than 1? More than 2? More than 3? How do you know it's more than 3? It's more than 65, isn't it? It's definitely more than 65. So you know it's going to be bigger than 3. In fact, you could probably do it from here. What's the next one? 70. What's the next one? What's the next one? But I didn't give him 80. I gave him 81. So you know it's going to be more than, here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know it's more than 6. So we're just going to plug and chug. 81 minus 50 over 5. Sam, what do you got? I'm sorry, 6 point. I didn't hear you. 6.2? All right, perfect. So your z-score, let me put a z here, sorry. Your z-score is 6.2. All right, here's your doyo. Let's say I give Mitzi $53. Give me her z-score, please. Check your answers with each other. Does your answer make sense? Because it's within the first what? Standard deviation. All right, who's the tallest person in this class? Akil? Jason, maybe? Anybody here 6'1"? What are you? 6'2"?
Oh. I think 6'5" too. I was like, what?
So 6'2", right? Is that like the tallest in here? All right, so let's say 6'2" is the tallest. And who's not the tallest? What you got, girl? 4'8". And a hat. Hey, don't forget that hat. It's important. If this is the range of heights in this classroom, Emma, can you guys do that later? Do it later. Thank you. If I say that you fall within the 80th percentile, am I talking about the top part or within the bottom part? So if I say, hey Maya, you're within the 80th percentile, am I saying you're up here or down here? You're within 80%. Yes, everything below it. Because I'm listing the heights. I'm going from 6'2 to 6'1 to 5'11 and so on and so forth. So my 80th percentile means that you're within this 80%. Everybody with me? Oftentimes when babies are born, they often first look at the height and the weight because they want to know if it's proportional. So your baby is within the first, 10 percentile of the nation people are born at this moment. The reason they do that is because if the kid's really tall, they want to make sure his heart is big enough to sustain his body. So that's why they always take the weight and the height. It's not to be cute. Like, oh, how cute. No, they need to, for health reasons, make sure that the baby's okay. And they do that within percentiles because they do every single year. They take people's weights and heights. Can you guys do that later, please? And they want to make sure that it matches what's the trend right now. So if I say that your height is within the 80th percentile, that means you're with everybody else, the majority. Now, Mina, who's 6'2", or some of us are in here who are 6 flat, are they within the 80th percentile? Probably not, depending on how many people we have on here. Okay? So now, what does this mean? Let's say I asked you for example 2. If I asked you to find me the 40th percentile of example 1. So if we go back to example 1, this is Miss Riad given an average of $50 per person. Where would 40% be here? By the way, how much is the whole thing again? 100 or 99.99%, right? And we did this in the warm-up, in the opener. You should have known what each one represents. Remember that? Well, how much were these? 34, and these outside ones? 14, and the other ones were 2. So if I asked you for the 40th percentile, my question to you is this. Am I asking you for 40% above the mean? Or am I asking you from 40% of the whole thing? Or am I going to ask you like 20 and 20? Am I asking you to evenly distribute it? What am I asking you for? Don't yell it out. Think. If I want the 40th percentile, what do I want from here? Based on what we just talked about here. Talk to your group members. What do I want when I'm talking about the 40th percentile? What do I want from here? John, what do you think? Very good. So you guys, pretend that I'm having, this is my list. Pretend this is the list of people, and this is how much money I gave. Isn't this the least and this is the most? Right? So if I want to get 40%, then I'm basically wanting from here up until 40%. So I want to know exactly what number on here is my 40th percentile. So is my answer going to be 75 or 70? No, right? Is it going to be up here at 60? Because you already know, how much is this part right here? 34, and this was 14, and this was like around 2 or 3. So is it going to be more than this?
Yeah.
Is it going to be more than this? Yeah, how much is this so far? 16 and a half, 17? So at least it's going to be more than 45. My answer is going to be more than 45. Are you guys with me? All right, now this is why you need this. Okay, so have this in front of you as a group. You took a picture of it, or it's easier to have in front of you. Write down the formula. Z equals, right now you need your z-score chart. Looks like this. It's going to be x minus the mean over the standard deviation. This now is what we're trying to find. What value gives me a 40th percentile? I can't put 40 right here. Does this say P for percent, or does that say Z for z-score? Z-score. You need to use your z-score chart to figure out what to put for a Z with a 40th percentile. So let me teach you how to read this. I'm going to challenge you and tell you what the answer is. You are now with your group are going to read this chart and be like, how the heck did she get negative 0.25? You'll notice that there's two sheets, right? Are they the same? No, what do you notice about the first sheet versus the second? Yes, positive z-scores and negative z-scores. Do you see it? The first one's negatives and the first one's positives? Everybody with me? Oh, I think I stapled the first one's negatives, right? The first one's negatives. So I need to figure out where 40% is. Is 40% above the mean or below the mean? Whoa, where's the mean? 50%. Yellow, you're scaring me. 50% is the mean, right? So is the 40th percentile above the mean or below the mean? Below. So does that mean your z-score is positive or negative? So you're not even going to look at the positive one. Just look at the negative one. Sandra, let me lose you, babe. Now, do some investigating as a group. How the heck did I go from 40% to that number? Go. Figure it out.
All right, so we know that the z-score is 0.25. So when we look at this chart, we go down to 0. Or negative 0.2 because that's the first digit in the decimal, and then we look over here to see the 0.05 and just find where they meet.
Very good.
And they meet at this number, 0.4129, and since this is the closest number that we can get to 40, since we are finding for the 40th percentile, and so this would be here.
Perfect, thank you. So what we're going to do on tonight's homework is actually in the opposite direction. I'm not going to give this to you. Thanks, babe.
Okay.
I'm not going to give this to you. You have to get this point. So you have to start with the 40%. You have to find the percentage that's closest to what you want to get to this number. Everybody with me? So now if I want to find out what number is within the 40th percentile, then now I can find it by plugging in my mean and my standard deviation. I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. So I get negative 1.25 equals x minus 50. I'm going to add 50 to both sides. So x equals 48.75. Which makes sense because it's below the mean. Oh wait, no, it's above the mean. It's below the mean. 50% is the mean. 40th percentile, which is under the $50, which why it makes sense, it's 48.75. Everybody with me? So that means if I go back to my graph and I go right here to 48.75, this represents 40% of the population. Everybody with me? All right. Example 3. What if I asked you to find the 85th percentile? Take out your z-score charts. Find the 85th percentile of example 1. So find me the z-score. And let's find the value. This is what we're trying to find. Is 85% above or below the mean? Above. Good job, Riad. I'll let somebody else try. What'd y'all get for the z-score? Good. I would accept 1.04 or 1.0. Well, no, check. Which one's closer? I could take 1.032, but which one's the closest to 85%? Yes, 1.04 is actually the closest one. Isn't it? But even if you put 1.05, it's not like you're going to get a totally different answer. Pretty darn close. So right here is 1.04. Equals x minus 50 over 5. I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. And add 50 and you get x equals $55.20. That means at least 85% of you got at least $55. Y'all with me? Now do we understand percentiles? Now the wording that I have on tomorrow's opener, which is your doyo, doesn't mean because it's worded a little differently, doesn't mean you can't do it. How would you answer if I asked you determine the cutoff for the top 3% of example 1? What percentile do I want if I want the cutoff for the top 3%? What percentile do you want? Let's say I want to find out the top 3% of you guys who got the most money. Do I want the 3%? Yes. So you need to plug in 0.97. You need to find the z-score for 0.97. You should have gotten 59.45. Your z-score, what was the z-score again? 1.89.